Hey, what's up, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you all for joining. We're back. We're back in the saddle again, as the song says. Couldn't be more excited to be here today with Kate Ressler and Micah Smith from the Community and Learning team. Folks, how y'all doing?
Doing good. Happy Friday.
Yeah, glad to be doing these again. It's been a while.
I know. To those of you who have joined us in the past, we're excited to get back to it. We're gonna have we have a new series. If you recall, we launched an audio series a few years back, and that was really when generative AI was sort of taking the stage. We had tremendous response to that, a lot of great conversations there. And now, as the autonomous enterprise presents itself and as agentic process automation is taking the main stage, we're going to dive in through a series of episodes and talk about, let's talk about what is agentic process automation? How do you use agentic process automation? What should you be thinking about as you migrate from RPA to APA? We'll do it from a program level. We'll have episodes specific to functions, to use cases. We're going to have practical applications for you. There's going to be a whole bevy of things here for you guys to consume and enjoy. As always, this is an interactive forum, so please ask your questions. We've got two of the most knowledgeable folks on the topic here, so we'll take advantage of that. But before we get any further, for those that don't know my guests today, guest stars, shall we call them, Kate, introduce yourself real quick. Tell the crowd who you are. What do you do?
Hi, everybody. My name's Kate. I am our marketing director here at Automation Anywhere for the Community and Learning team. My role within this team is to help our community members and customers learn about how they can be empowered to be successful on this journey from RPA to APA. Quick plug, we have awesome programs, awesome learning opportunities. You should definitely be checking out pathfinder.automationanywhere.com to learn more.
Micah, Kate's already, she must have seen a few episodes with the shameless plug buttons that we have.
That's right.
You're natural.
Right,
you're natural.
Always be promoting.
Yes.
No, Kate definitely sold herself short there. She's running a lot of our community programs, the stuff that people get really excited about, the engagement opportunities. Pathfinder Summit, which was a huge success in January. Kate's responsible for that. I'm Micah Smith. I lead our developer evangelism, AAU, bot games, community, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm really excited about today's topic because this is something that a lot of customers have been struggling with and something that we've got lots of resources on the way for to help not only developers, but also automation program leaders to adapt to this new reality of agentic automation.
Awesome. I think, let's start at the top. As we well know, I mentioned, we had started that LinkedIn audio series back in the day, and when generative AI was kind of coming on. And then suddenly everybody had generative AI in their products, seemingly. And then quickly, generative AI turned into agentic AI, and now everyone's got agents. But I think not all agents are created equal, and I think people have sort of a different take on these things, which, if everyone's using the same term to describe different things, becomes sort of confusing, right? So I want to dive in a little bit and get your guys' take on, when we talk about agentic process automation, how is that different from sort of AI agents and some of the other some of the other ads that we might see, or some of the other pitches some of our folks that are attending might get? What's the difference between APA and some of these other agents?
Like, you want to handle this, or you want me to? Okay.
No, I'll answer it. So I'll start by saying there is no shortage of noise in the marketplace around what are agents, from celebrities sitting in the rain, eating food, to like just startups that maybe really don't have everything there, but they say AI agent, and then they do a huge funding round. So I'll start by saying I'm a stickler for defining everything that we do and making it super clear for
Hold on,
everyone.
hold on, Mike. I think your sync in the background just went on. Just kidding.
Yeah, what was that sound? Was that on my side? Was it really? I didn't even know what that was.
Sound like you were washing dishes. Sound like you were washing dishes.
I don't know what just happened. Sorry about that. So I think it's really important that we're crystal clear on exactly what we mean when we say agentic process automation. For me, that means actually coming up with a definition so people can see how all these things fit together. So the way that we define this, and I'm going to share my screen here so that everyone can see this definition. Let's see. Is it up? There we go. Mm-hmm. We define agentic process automation as a framework for completing multi-step, complex business processes through the orchestration of AI agents and tools to achieve business outcomes with appropriate controls and guardrails. There's a couple key phrases that are super important there. Number one, important controls and guardrails means that I need to do some level of either masking, logging, controls, analysis on both the prompts that are coming out of my organization, but also the responses and analyzing those that we get back. The other thing that I would say here is we want to think of this as a framework. So it doesn't mean that I'm ditching everything that I used to do in the world of RPA and my task bots and all of my custom packages. Like those are still, I would say, not just useful, but even more useful than they were before. And that's because of this next definition. AI agents are the systems that coordinate the use of those tools, and we've got a definition for tools coming, to accomplish objectives with varying levels of autonomy. And what we mean by that is to say that in some processes where we're using agentic process automation and embedding agents, they will be more deterministic. We kind of know where it goes, we know the general flow, but AI agents help us with certain tasks within that. We'll see throughout the rest of this year that we start to move towards greater levels of autonomy, where agents are doing goal completion, they're planning, they're determining tool use dynamically, right? So we're going to get to more and more autonomy, and you're going to see that throughout the year, and some really cool announcements for Plug Imagine. The last definition I'll have here is around tools, and these are the capabilities that AI agents can utilize. So if my AI agent is a plumber, he has a bunch of tools in his tool belt that he or she can use to solve problems. And those can be the task bots, the RPA bots that you've created, API tasks or automation cloud services. They could be other processes. They could be other agents. They could be AI skills. They could be document automation learning instances. They could be connections that you've built through Connector Builder. They could be APIs. So lots of capabilities. And that list will continue to grow as we continue to go out through the year. For defining what tools that agents have at their disposal. But that's how I would describe it. And I think what's different here is that we're putting really clear language to what this is and exactly what it is within our platform that enables these capabilities.
And I think too, in the spirit of, for those of you from around the globe that maybe don't know, as you can tell by my background, I'm a huge basketball guy. If you've seen any of the shows, you know me and Mike can talk hoops a lot. It's March Madness, which is the university national tournament here, which is kind of my holy season. And so when I think about some of these things, I think it from a basketball lens. You could put any sort of sports analogy in there, but you've got your point guard, you've got your shooting guard, but they've all got tools, a specific set of capabilities, right? But you've also got a coach orchestrating where they're going on the field, what they're doing within a particular set. And so I think this idea of orchestration too is super, super important, right? And this is, again, we're talking about moving from RPA to APA, but I think it's also important to understand, and I think we're going to dive into this a little bit from the Pathfinder framework. We've talked about this before. Solid business principles and solid business foundations are always solid. So, no matter what the new technology is and the latest thing, a solid foundational approach will always work, right? And I think it's important to realize that as you're migrating from RPA to APA, as you mentioned, you're not just sort of chucking everything out and starting over again. You're iterating, but the iteration has a sort of, I think, step change impact, right? Because of the capabilities from the agents, right?
Yeah, and I would even say migrate is maybe not the best word, but like an evolution, right?
It's an
because
evolution,
a migration suggests that I'm moving from one thing to another. an evolution, I think, suggests, and I'm thinking of this on the fly, but an evolution suggests that I'm moving from and continuing on with that journey. And I think that's really an important distinction when we think about an automation program going from RPA to APA.
Yeah,
Agreed.
RPA absolutely created a really strong foundation. I think undoubtedly all of our customers have a pretty strong understanding across their organization what automation can do. And now introducing agentic automation, agentic process automation is going to really triple, quadruple beyond their impact. So it is the evolution, truly.
And I think, we're fortunate, right? We get to drink our own champagne. And I can tell you, like, from a marketing lens, in terms of the marketing automations that we had previously, but now with the Agentic capability, with the APA system, the stuff that we're able to do is actually, I mean, even I'm blown away, and I have high expectations. So it's super exciting. I know across our various functions within the company, and we'll have more stories on these too coming up, but across the company, the impact is it's almost hard to believe in some cases, but it's real.
It's making things possible that were impossible before. And that's super exciting when we're in this era where maybe some budgets are constrained, resources are constrained. So now you can look at new solutions through AI that are actually going to help you make the impact you want to make. I mean, we're within our community team, even, we are figuring out how to leverage AI and AI agents to improve our community experience, which is super exciting and not something that we could have done 2 or 3 years ago.
I think we talked about this before too. This idea of there's this mythical unicorn out there that folks in marketing in particular have been talking about, which is this idea of personalization. And now I'm going to get spammed with a bunch of ads because I mentioned it, but it's about reaching the person in the context of what they're actually looking for and trying to help them. And that's what I get excited about, is because there's so much data out there. Like, you can still if we're being honest, a lot of the platforms and whatnot from a marketing lens start to become, they're a little bit more personalized, but they're still not like what you'd really want, right? But I think because but what I'm excited about is the idea of being able to personalize and understand what my man Stephen Hamerka, sorry Stephen, I just butchered your name, it's early, who's out there in the comments, what is he looking for and need, and anticipate that and deliver it, right? And others as well. But so we've talked a little bit about defining what APA is, but why is it important now? Why are we here?
I mean, arguably, the number one reason, in my opinion, is if we're not figuring this out now, your business is going to get lost to the competition, right?
It is sort of a .com moment. Kate, you probably weren't born yet. Mike, I lived through that as the old sage. You can see the battle scars. But no, those who don't adapt don't survive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a first mover and you're able to do this, and again, I realize that we have a lot of customers who are becoming first mover, and they're creating a competitive advantage, if not a moat, especially in the dynamic age of the way enterprises work, macroeconomic conditions, et cetera, especially in a global commerce perspective. I just heard an amazing use case last night on a call with a customer from Japan, a huge customer who will remain nameless now, but really exciting stuff. So
let's talk about where people are in this, right? You heard a great use case. We've heard from a lot of customers who have implemented things, but we also know that a lot of customers are still kind of trying to understand what this is, what it means for their program, and how this helps them moving forward. And as Kate mentioned in the intro here, we are kicking off an APA training camp starting April 7th. As a part of that, many of you who have signed up have seen that we also include kind of a baseline survey so we can understand where our community's at as we kick things off. And we've had over 2,500 of you give feedback on that survey and provide responses. And we want to analyze some of this with you live so you can see exactly where you're at and where your peers are at. So If we can share the screen real quick. Kate, walk us through some of this because this data is really interesting.
Yeah. So, over the last year or so, we've asked this question a number of times, and slowly but surely, this yellow bar, or yellow portion of the chart, I should say, has shrunk a bit. But we're still seeing about half of all of our customers are just focused on RPA. That's not to say they're not interested in APA. They are. They just haven't gotten there yet. Now, we have another 30% who are in their early stages of exploring AI. They probably haven't made any AI purchases. They haven't gotten hands on keyboard, if you will, but they are trying to figure it out. They're trying to make their plan. Then we've got 15% that are working on a POC, which is pretty exciting. That's going to give them a lot of momentum. And then just 7% have one or more AI solution in production. So I imagine this chart in just 3 months is going to look very, very different.
But it also means that the people who are coming to our training camp are primed and like, this is for them, right? This is for those people who are yellow to orange to purple and even blue, right? If you have one already, you're still going to benefit from this. But this is exactly where we kind of expected people would be. And how we want to help escort them into this next maturation of their program.
And we talked about the training camp sort of at a high level, but talk to me a little bit about the expectations there. What can attendees expect?
Yeah, we're going to jump into this in a little bit, but we're going to have 2 learning trails, one for developers and one for automation program leaders. And you're learning similar content, but at a different depth and from a different perspective. And that's going to help any automation program have a really holistic approach to APA adoption, because you've got your program leaders focused on driving your vision, strategy, and thinking about things like team competencies and upskilling. And then you've got your developers who are focused on the nuts and bolts of the how-to, the exactly how to implement these things, how to test them, how to combine different capabilities to build an end-to-end solution. So both learning similar things, but from a different level of depth and from a different perspective.
I'm curious too, because we got some activity in the comments, which is fantastic. Guys, keep those coming. Based on, we've got responses. I think probably many of you that are commenting and attending this have also signed up. As the team said here, there's thousands that are going to be attending training camp, which is amazing and exciting. Depending on what part of this graph you're in, what are some of the things that are going to be helpful for you to move your program forward specifically? Go ahead and put it in the comments. I'm just curious. It's just an unofficial poll. But we're always curious, like where your head's at and what specifically, or what are you excited about from training camp specifically? What track, what challenge? So keep those comments coming.
For sure. Kate, I want to move on to the next one here, because we mentioned that 48 here are primarily focused on RPA, 30% are in the early stages, another 15% are kind of working on POC. So that's about 90% of everyone is still early on to this. So I want to transition here to our second graph, which is what's the biggest challenge in implementing these solutions?
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully this will feel a little validating and therapeutic to everyone here. You are not alone if you are facing challenges. Certainly lacking technical knowledge is the very largest part. Of course, that goes hand in hand with use case identification. That has been a key topic we've heard even from our MVPs. We're really excited. We have a lot of people who want to do this, but figuring out the best first use case is really hard. Integrating with existing systems pulls in third with 13%, budget constraints 7%. Stakeholder buy-in is only 6%. That one was kind of surprising to me, actually. I assumed that a lot more people were facing kind of some pushback on adopting AI, but it looks like everyone's not really. Everyone's excited about it. It's probably just the how and the when and the, how to get there. And then, of course, I did poke through a lot of the other comments to see if there was any trends. And across the board, it was pretty much all of the above or some combination of all of these things. So if you are facing any of these or all of these, you should know you are not alone. And this is exactly why we are focused on getting APA Training Camp live here in just a couple weeks.
I think that the encouraging thing is we've already built a lot of our materials for this APA Training Camp. We're making some final touches on the last videos. The thing that's important for me here is that it's reassuring that we're covering almost all of this stuff through our training materials, right? We're giving you all of the technical know-how. We're going to teach you how to think about use cases. And I think really importantly, we're teaching you how to think about use cases, not only from an automation program leader perspective, being able to look at my opportunity pipeline and kind of hunt through and understand which of these might be a good fit for APA, but also from a developer perspective, right? If I'm designing an agentic solution, how do I think about breaking that down into the specific skills that I need to build into my agent in order for it to complete the task? So covering those for sure. The only thing I don't think we can help you on is budget constraints, but we'll help you with everything else to make the justification for those budget constraints and budget asks to be as strong as possible.
Yep. I think if they can master the stakeholder buy-in, the budget constraint gets a lot easier.
Yeah.
I think too, but I was thinking about this just within our own org because, we say it's for automation leader and there's the developer side, but I think there's a mind shift in a way of thinking about this that also needs to change a little bit. So from my functional side, there's like the business decision maker, there's, the way we sort of do personas, et cetera. But I look at myself even, I think many of us need to start looking at ourselves as automation leaders in our own context, right? It might not be for the formal automation program, but me as in marketing, as I'm looking for agentic solutions and how I'm applying APA, like I'm leveraging Pathfinder in our approach, however small it is, the framework. But I think it's something that is a mind shift overall. We've all seen the articles, especially like I said, on the business side, so sort of moving out of IT into the functional side, where folks kind of want to use it, maybe don't know how to do it. But in order to communicate and work with, whoever their automation team is, and to get to that, to move out of some of those levels that are in the graph from POC to production, I think having that mindset change will be helpful. So I think this is helpful not just for the automation COE and automation leaders, but for all of us, honestly.
You're spot on. And actually kind of one data point we didn't pull into those slides, a number of people who are traditionally developers are also seeking out the automation leader training, just because I think they know how important it is for them to understand these key aspects of running a program in this era of AI. And the more that they can be in sync with their leader, the better. Now, that's not to say that they don't want to master those technical skills first.
Absolutely. We've got, also, by the way, did I mention it? Is it free?
100% free, always. Our team doesn't charge for any of our training.
You guys are givers. You guys are saints doing the work. Thank you. Well, let's talk a little bit about, again, going back to this journey from RPA to APA and that progression towards the autonomous enterprise, leveraging agentic process automation. When we talk about sort of what are some of the key challenges, I guess, that we're going to cover within training camp, but just in general, how would you frame those out, Micah?
I think that there's looking at the survey results, also working with customers. So we've got kind of anecdotal evidence and empirical evidence from the data here. There are three key areas that I think most automation programs are struggling with as they get started in making this evolution from RPA to APA. The first is around their program strategy and vision. Actually, Jorge, if we can share my screen real quick. I think I've got pathfinder.automationanywhere.com up. I can't see all of you guys. There we go. I can see it. So if you go to pathfinder.automationanywhere.com, I'm going to use this framework to guide through part of our conversation here. If you scroll right down here, you can see that this is our Pathfinder framework. And we define this as kind of the 9 key dimensions that automation program leaders need to know about, need to be familiar with, need to be thinking about as they grow and scale their program. And so, like I was mentioning, some of the key areas where automation program leaders are struggling as they continue to mature their program, number 1 is around their strategy and vision. It's really important that you have a clear strategy and vision that's been defined and that outlines who we are, what we offer to this organization, and establishes some of the goals that we have as a program for moving into this APA area. So you can see that as you highlight these different tiles, the main one is like an orange color. I don't know if it shows up very well on the screen, but the sub ones are in yellow colors. And what that means is that these dimensions don't just exist in isolation. If all I was good at is evangelism and stakeholder management, I am a charlatan, right? I'm not actually delivering. I'm just good at being able to talk about.
Hey, no name calling, dude. I'm right here.
It's really important that you think about these things in the context of their dependency. So my strategy and vision informs my evangelism and stakeholder management. The goals that I set up in my strategy and vision outline the kind of value measurement and analytics that I need to be thinking about to say, have I completed those goals? And am I aligned to the goals of the organization? Opportunity identification and pipeline management, right? I could go through all of these, but suffice it to say, all of them have interconnected relationships. So back to the question that we were supposed to answer. The number 1 thing that people are struggling with is establishing that strategy and vision and being able to communicate it so it's clear what we're doing, what we used to do, and what we're doing now. The next one is around governance and risk management. We'll dive into that. I think most people who are on our chat here are at least familiar with or have heard of AI governance councils. Engaging with an AI governance council, and really I would say partnering with those AI governance councils, is really important to finding success in APA. I saw someone mention in the chat, I think it was Wayne, talking about how there are a lot of IT organizations pushing competing products and solutions, right? They're all trying to gain the favor of their AI governance council internally to be able to say, this is where we do some, all, most of our AI work. So it's really important that you establish a partnership with them. And then finally, I think the other one is people and skills. Thinking about how do we develop the skills that we need to deliver on these agentic solutions. I think that starts with just sitting down and doing a competency matrix. Here are my team members. Here's the skills that we have. Here are the skills that we need to develop in order to get to that next level that's defined by our strategy and vision. So those are the 3 that I think of, Gabe, and I'd love to talk about more of those in a little more depth, and maybe we can circle into answering some of these questions at the same time.
Yeah. So Kate, building on that, how and why do organizations, or should organizations, evolve this automation vision? Like, what's the how? Can we unpack that a little bit?
Yeah. Okay. So there's no surprise that AI has created this truly fundamental shift in how we think about automation, right? Like that's not controversial. But those orgs that are automation programs, I should say, that are eager to adopt AI to make this bigger impact, they really need to start revisiting their vision. Or if they didn't have a vision statement to begin with, it is time to invest some time and effort to create one. So let's go back to when it all first started, when organizations started their journey with RPA and creating their COE. They were focused on automating individual tasks, and that they found a lot of success. RPA has been very successful. Many orgs have proved its value multiple times over, right? But now
we still have these stories being posted every day, right? Like
1,000%. It works, yes. But we're in a new era, and ignoring AI or delaying its adoption will have ultimately an impact on your business. So what does that mean for COEs? Leaders really need to think bigger about their vision and think about this COE transformation so that it goes from the bot team to an AI-powered process transformation engine. That means really thinking about moving beyond just building bots to orchestrating intelligent, adaptive, end-to-end complex solutions that actually address real business problems. Alongside their vision, the other key thing I can't emphasize enough is that programs need to really evaluate what the metrics are. Now, I'm going to ask an honest question to everyone tuning in here. Are you still talking about your impact with the number of bots deployed as a key measure of your success? Drop it in the chat. If you are, that is certainly a metric to be proud of, right? Like, it is a huge effort to get an automation deployed. But what really matters, especially now, especially with everybody competing to be the first to have an AI impact, is that you are demonstrating business impact. That means you have to look at metrics that are aligned to your organization's mission and vision overall. You're showing how you are really moving the needle for the key metrics for your organization, not just production metrics for your automation team.
Is this it sounds like you're talking, if I can be a simpleton or the charlatan that Micah called me earlier. Just kidding. You're talking about sort of from a metric perspective, it's really, we're talking about this idea of moving from task automation to process automation, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you're thinking task automation, those are simple metrics based on kind of performance of your automations. They're operational metrics. But really, if we're looking at how we transform end-to-end business processes, we need to look at the impact it's having on the actual business. So yes, there are revenue metrics we should be looking at, but what are additional metrics that we could be considering? If we are doing something in the customer experience space, maybe NPS should be a key measure of success, right? Or if we are looking at something in compliance, how are we measuring our impact on, risk mitigation, right? There's just a lot of different ways that we should be thinking about our potential impact beyond operational execution metrics that we've all focused on previously. Right?
I think there's two that, like, I'm looking at some of these comments. Wayne has been active in the comments. Thank you, Wayne. But this idea of, we focus on monthly ROI. I can just tell you from like the lens of like using a marketing analogy, this idea of sort of sourcing the ROI or sourcing the impact and influencing the impact. And it sounds like there's an expanded sort of viewpoint almost from this automation center that look at influence as well, where it's not a sort of a direct, maybe one-to-one, if that makes sense to you guys. But there's this idea of overall impact or influence as well.
1,000%. I actually just was speaking with one of our MVPs the other day, and he said something that stuck with me. He said that I don't have to always talk about ROI anymore. RPA proved that. We are now, he's now looking at how APA will drive extra value, and he called it the multiplier effect, right? So
love that.
And he said that now, because of that multiplier effect, he is looking at new business metrics, which is super exciting for everyone. I think that's key to this actually making a lasting impact in organizations and not being like the new shiny object that they adopt for a little while and then abandon,
Yeah, and I think it goes back to, two things. One, the original graphic, that, hey, listen, it is a brave new world. And some of these things, it is opening up these possibilities, and some of these things are being explored and being redefined, et cetera, like this MVP is talking about. There's new metrics that haven't exist, but also at the same time, there are those foundational, as we started at the top, the foundational business principles that you can still use, that you should use, that you need to use to continue to guide your evolution. So you have the governance and guide rails in there, so you're able to evangelize and get the investment or communicate, work cross-functionally with all these other functions that I think it was Wayne's comment that are trying to bring AI to the table. It's kind of no different than, the way I look at it. There's always everyone's got I'm going to bring this platform in for this and this platform and that. We're just talking AI right now, right? And obviously because it's such a, crucible moment in the transformative power. Everyone wants to get it right, but at the same time, it's sort of a gating factor because everyone's worried so much about getting it right. And of course, there's some security and other things. But Micah, talk to me a little bit about this. Is building on what Kate was talking about. Sort of the practical side and the strategic and practical side of the strategy and vision.
Yeah, I think building on what Kate said, I think a lot of automation programs that I've worked with, we did Pathfinder workshops with a lot of customers. I think we did over 30 on-site, full day workshops. Some of the patterns that I saw over and over were that automation programs were at times largely disconnected from the overall objectives of the organization and from the key objectives of their stakeholders, right? And so the first piece of guidance that I give automation programs as they're refining their strategy and vision, especially with a lens to APA, is to say, understand what really matters to your organization, right? When you go to a town hall, when you go to an all hands meeting, like take note of exactly what things seem to be the most important to your CEO, CFO, CIO, whatever your VP, like whoever is in charge, pay attention to what matters to them. Then go back and connect the dots, right? How does my strategy and vision align to these key objectives from the organization? Because if there's not alignment, it's going to be really hard for me to get continued buy-in and investment into my program. So I want to make sure that my program is very clearly aligned to what the organization is focused on and really what my key stakeholders are focused on. If I go to a key stakeholder and I said, hey, help me understand your OKRs for this year, because myself and my team are going to help make you successful. You would be floored, right? Like if someone said that to me, they're going to have my attention. And I think that's really important to consider as an automation program leader. Are you speaking the language of your stakeholders, or are you speaking the language of an automation program? If I tell you I delivered a bot, no one knows what that means, right? No one cares. If I tell you that I just made your SLAs significantly more improved, if we were able to reduce errors, if we were able to, even drive new sources of revenue for the organization, now you're getting attention from your stakeholders. So it's really important to pay attention. Pay attention with intention. I like that one.
I like that.
So that's really important. And then finally, it's really important to share that alignment. So I saw what was important to the organization and stakeholders. I connected the dots through defining my strategy and vision. And now when I go through my communication efforts, my evangelism, working with my stakeholders, I want them to see their priorities reflected in my priorities. And that's how you're going to really be able to change your strategy and vision to make sure you're clearly aligned with organizational objectives. What does that have to do with APA? Well, your organization has objectives and goals around the adoption of AI. They may or may not be clearly defined. But that's why it's really important that you align to what's there and start working with whatever assets or whatever teams are in place. If that's your AI governance council, great, partner with them. If it's some other team that's driving AI initiatives, you are a great partner to them. They have objectives of having AI be tangible and useful for the organization. You, as an automation program leader, have the capabilities, the tools, the platform, and we already talked about tools, but the assets that an AI agent would use to make those things a reality. So I would definitely lean into that. And I think that probably leads to our next topic, Gabe.
Yeah, which is the governance and risk management. And again, in the comments, thanks to everyone for participating, because there's some really good conversation happening there, some great questions. But around governance and risk management, I think somebody mentioned, I believe it was in the finance industry, which is obviously heavily regulated. We excel in that space. I think there's two major industries that we all know are very heavily regulated. One is the finance side, the other is healthcare, for good reason. But those are two places we excel. So when we talk about, okay, we want to do this, but we're on the fence because we need to understand how we're going to control these things. When this first came out, there was a lot of like, where's my data going in this LLM black box, et cetera, et cetera. I think we've evolved a little bit from that. But what do people need to be thinking about in the context of governance and risk management Right, go.
I think it's really important to think of your AI governance council as an enabler for you and not a barrier to innovation. It may seem like at times that they're trying to hold everyone back and push people back, but the reality is the better that you can partner with that AI governance council internally, the easier it's going to be for you to start to move towards agentic process automation. And so part of what that means is being able to answer the questions that they're going to have. What does this mean for my data? What models are you trying to use? How are you connecting to them? How are you, let's say, doing logging and governance around that? How are you masking PII data if it's involved, right? You want to be able to have an answer to all of those questions as you start to work with that AI governance council. If you show up and you've already got answers for all of this stuff, you've got a POC that's built, it's been smoke tested, you can prove that it's using Automation Anywhere's guardrails and logging capabilities for you to be able to analyze not only the prompt, but the response. That's going to be a much easier conversation than if you just show up and try to answer questions on the fly. So I think it's really important in that regard. The other thing I'll say, and I think this addresses a question that someone had earlier, like, is it risky to adopt AI agents into your workflow? What if power goes off? You know, if power goes off, you've got a problem kind of regardless of what happens. But especially with the adoption of AI agents through API tasks, those are running on serverless containers. So the responsibility of them being up and the failover and things like that, that's all an AWS or GCP responsibility, not necessarily something you have to worry about quite as much. But getting back to the point here, one question that any AI governance council is going to ask is, what happens if you get a low confidence response out of the model, or it's not giving you the response you intend? And that's why it's really important when you talk about this in terms of Automation Anywhere, that you're thinking about the overall process that you've built, right? We're rolling out Process Composer 2.0 very soon, but that's going to show you how you can build all of these different flows and include a human in the loop, right? We've already got Copilot, which is our human in the loop interface that can be embedded in Teams. It can be embedded in a web application. You can also just go to the Copilot page as well. But there's lots of different ways that you can actually invoke humans for review. That backstop is really important for your AI governance council for a couple of key reasons. Number one, risk management is definitely in place, right? I've had these reviewed. So let's say I'm implementing my very first APA use case. I'm probably going to do 100% human review, and I'm going to track how often the agent and human agree. If I have a really high percentage there, which I expect to, then I can start to let that off and not send every single task to a human. But especially when I get started and as I'm trying to prove and build trust in this solution, I'm going to do that. The second thing is having that human in the loop enables me to have some retraining data and insights into how I can improve my APA solution, right? So maybe I'm going to use some of the humans' responses along with, the input that they got in a RAG solution so that I can continuously try to improve my model and my usage of that model. So, classification problems or sentiment analysis problems that we're evaluating that were previously done incorrectly, I can see some improvement on it. And because I'm implementing that logging and human in the loop, I've got that covered. So I think those are some of the key things that you want to be ready for, and you want to have that conversation with your AI governance council on.
That's a great. It's a great summary, and with regards to Kate, with regards to enacting those, Mike has sort of outlined some of the things, but how does it look practically within the space?
Yeah, so I think he's mentioned a couple. There's what I would think of as like some key partnerships, right? He mentioned your AI governance council, AI council, whatever the name is that it goes by in your organization, key partner. There are gatekeepers, but also enablers for you to be successful with AI. They will give you your approved LLMs and AI tools. They are who you need to advocate for the tools that you want to be using that you believe will make the biggest impact. Second, I think there needs to be a strong partnership between automation teams and those who know the processes in and out that know the impact that the process has on the business, that's how you're going to really enable effective human in the loop kind of oversight. So that one is really key in that planning stage, right? Third, I think bringing the technical teams and the business teams together to standardize design and sign-off processes is really critical. And the last partnership, if you will, I would consider in this, shift to APA is making sure your dev team, testing teams work together to establish documentation and testing standards. That is going to ensure that your AI solutions are maintainable and reliable. Super important as we go forward.
I think, and so again, just centering it with training camp, and looking at the questions that we've had come up here. There's some we sort of addressed some of the questions, but going to training camp, you're going to get hands-on with these answers and show people actually how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So do you want to pull up the slides again, Micah?
Yeah. Let me switch to that screen.
So training camp is going to enable arguably whole automation teams to figure out their next best step for transforming from an RPA program to an APA program. When we thought about this, we debated, do we tackle kind of the issues that automation leaders are facing first? Do we tackle enabling devs to use our AI tools? And the answer really was, we can't do one before the other. They need to work together. So that's what we did. APA Training Camp is going to help teams figure out how to evolve their strategy and their program to shift, to make the leap. I'm going to say make the leap because it is a leap from RPA to APA. And it's going to give developers and any other technical user who needs to know tools inside and out the opportunity to get hands-on to build agentic solutions or an agentic solution end-to-end. By week 4 in APA Training Camp, you will have a complex process automated with, Micah, remind me, I don't know how many AI agents are going to be built in the process, but I know there's multiple.
I think you'll build, well, depending on which solution you build, we've got a couple of them, but you might build 6, I think is the number of AI agents that you would build for the most complex one.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, after 4 weeks, you're going to have a lot of hands-on practice. We are also going to be providing teams with kind of discussion guides so they can come together as a team and say, what do we need to be reflecting on this week so that we can make progress next? We are going to give them some key activities that I think will be really important to set them up for success, activities that the whole team can do together. And then lastly, a few key points about the feasibility of this. APA Training Camp is the core courses are on demand. That means you fit them into your schedule. Now, do we recommend blocking a couple hours a week on your schedule so you can focus on it? Absolutely. Otherwise, training sometimes falls to the back burner. But so block that time, an hour, 2 hours, and you should be good to go. We are introducing something new, though, compared to prior training camps. We are having some weekly office hours. Now, our goal with this is to be able to answer questions live, one-on-one with people. It would be a low commitment on their part, right? They're going to just come, jump in, ask their question, and then hop out if they don't want to stay. The great news is we also recruited a few others to help us expand our offerings. So we will have multiple time zones for office hours and multiple languages. We'll have it in Portuguese, Spanish, and 2 sessions in English. And then, of course, you can catch us every week for LinkedIn Live coaching sessions where we'll play up talk about the themes of the week, what people walked away with, answers some key questions, have a little bit of fun.
Ton of goodness. And if I wake up at 2 a.m, I can just pop in and there's probably an office hour going on and I can ask a question, which is fantastic.
Exactly. Yep.
We're talking about a little bit about the hands-on here, but you also touched on this sort of the challenge that Mike is circling back to the top when we started this section of the conversation. This idea of people and skills that was prevalent in the data that you showed in the graph, Kate. But as we think about APA, as you mentioned, the evolution from RPA to APA, in the context of people and skills, what new skills and competencies are required to make this leap, as you put it, Kate?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question. So certainly from a technical perspective, there's a lot of newness that people are going to have to learn. From learning about AI skills and how to build AI agents, to thinking about how to properly document these things in ways that maybe you haven't done before. Just really creating strong foundations so that as you grow and scale the complexity of your APA solutions, that you've got a strong foundation in place. From a leader perspective, I actually, and maybe I don't know if you'd agree or disagree, Micah, but I don't think that the skills are actually that different. It's revisiting them with a new lens. So going back to that Pathfinder framework, these are the same components you were operating your program with before, but we've got new technology and tools that are shifting how we need to think about it. Would you agree, disagree?
I agree. I think it's also maybe your program wasn't considering some of these things before. We've seen a lot of that, right?
True. Yeah.
I can deliver killer solutions that are, awesome and meeting every need. But if I can't talk about it and no one else is talking about it, people aren't going to get excited internally. They're not going to submit to my opportunity pipeline, and I'm going to see things drying up. So as much as we're teaching you about the APA stuff, it also means that I need to have a firm foundation on some of those other concepts, from evangelism to my team structure to building out a competency matrix for what skills people need to develop. I think I would also add on to what Kate's talking about. We need to be able to think about a business problem and break it down in terms of where we could see agents fitting into this if they're needed, right? That's not to say every use case has to have AI jammed into it. But then also breaking down those agents into what skills are they doing. And what we're going to do in the developer track specifically, we will mention this in the leader track, is that we're going to teach you 8 of the key skills that we think about when it comes to breaking down an agent into the skills that it needs, from classification and how that enables us to solve different problems to content creation. So we're teaching you all of those individual skills and then also showing you how those can come together to build an agent. So the agent can have one or more skills as it completes its work. So that's going to be really important to think about, not only from the lens of a developer, but also someone who's helping to identify what may be a good fit for agentic process automation. Gabe, I do want to make sure we have some time for these questions because we got
we got a ton. And also, I just want to say too, APA training camp is going to be amazing, but I would also encourage those folks who haven't signed up already. You want to come do this live and experience, even more in depth hearing from customers. Imagine is the place to be in Orlando. You'll get this and more. We're talking about the exponential impact. Going to Imagine has exponential impact on many, many levels. So you see the link in the comments to register for Imagine, but I can't encourage you enough to not only do APA training camp, but then follow it up with a trip to Orlando and really take this to the next level. Michael, which comments where you guys want to start?
I'm going to start from one at the bottom here. Juan just asked, do you foresee a standardization going forward where agents need to talk a common language? I saw Adobe's Orchestrator 2. You know what? I think you're absolutely right. We see this a little bit already, right? If we look at the Model Connection Protocol, or MCP, both servers and clients, that's trying to establish a standard for the way that LLMs can talk to different servers. And I think that we'll see that continuing to mature so that you can have AI agents outside of Automation Anywhere, working with Automation Anywhere processes, and vice versa, right? You might have a process that exists someplace else. You want to call an AI agent that you built and that exists in Automation Anywhere, you'll be able to do that. So APIs for right now meet a lot of those needs. But I think going forward, we'll see more and more, especially when it's, kind of starting with an LLM, making a request of something else. It's really tool use, but I think MCP servers and clients will drive a lot of that forward. What other questions do we have here? Let's see. How do we guide corporations? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think we sort of addressed it, but I think this is, it's a big question, I think, and I know we're going to dive into it more, but Ryan Tanaka had asked about, is there a standard or criteria for determining human in the loop? And this goes to that governance question as well. I think just from a non-technical perspective, the way I've been looking at this, if we've been developing out from the marketing side, is looking at the agentic solution as, as a junior employee or as an intern, even to some extent, on how I would bring them up along and get them activated, and to a place where I don't have to constantly check their work. Like, that's kind of the way I look at it. But you guys, from a technical perspective, what do you think about the human in the loop? Is there a standard?
I think it's human in the loop 100% of the time as you're rolling out new capabilities. The first time I use a different skill, the first time I build a new agent, I want human in the loop validation 100% of the time as I just launched that, right? Because I want to build confidence in it as a deliverer of solutions, but I also want the recipients, like Kate talked about, the business teams that I'm working with, I want them to be believers. I want them to see the output, because I can flip a switch and then they won't see the output so much, right? So you could think about that as, almost like a global variable that you can control when you can switch these on and off to what percentage you send to human in the loop. But I'm definitely keeping human in the loop all the time as I start these.
I think the live stream AI doesn't want human in the loop because it feels like you're getting blurred out to me. I don't know if they bandwidth they should or not.
Because I'm out of space on my machine, probably.
It's a sign. But I also think there's something else about the human in the loop, which is, one is like, I'm not here to just check. Like, it's a mindset shift, and you mentioned it a little bit, which is, yes, check the work, validate it, and we've got some killer use cases where that's happening. But it's also the idea of training up, right? So that feedback, whether you're creating, sort of RAG elements or whatever it is, but that feedback loop from the human in the loop is not just about did you do it right or not. It's about giving the feedback so it continues to get better.
1,000%. A couple months ago, I spoke to one of our MVPs. I can't remember the exact use case, but it was with a ancillary department that they were building an AI solution for. In a kind of iterative way. They took just one of the steps of an existing process and built in an agent to address it. There was a lot of skepticism on in the ancillary department, right? And they were willing to try it out. Human in the loop is what enabled them to say, yes, this works. They were able to provide feedback to make it better so that they could eventually take the human out of the loop.
Yeah.
So it's a trust building exercise too. I think that sometimes maybe gets a little bit overlooked, but super powerful for kind of a different evangelism technique, right? You are giving people the opportunity to play a role and influencing the output.
And they feel, and it builds confidence. It has a practical side to it. And then that feedback loop is then making the automation, the agentic automation,
so much better.
Yeah. Y'all, we are already at the top of the hour, and I realize that probably everyone's got meetings to get to and all these kinds of things. Thank you both for joining, sharing tons of stuff here. Thank you to our audience for participating. Great questions. I'm excited for all of you to join the Agentic Process Automation Training Camp. I can't wait to see the feedback from that. As Kate mentioned, there's the on-demand portions. There's going to be the LinkedIn Live, obviously live sessions. But then, we'll have more from this in the spirit of, being able to share all of this together, because it is an exciting time. There are a lot of unknowns. But the good news is that together we've got a plan. We're seeing it work, and be able to share that with you all and get your feedback on this quickly as this thing continues to change almost daily. That's what we're here for, and that's what we got for you. So I'm excited about that. So thank you everyone for joining. Micah, Kate, great stuff. I'm so excited. I was going to say earlier, I've seen some of the content for, I get to get sneak peeks and whatnot. And from my perspective, as I mentioned, like, it is infinitely helpful as a non-technical business stakeholder wants to put agentic process automation to work in our function. It's critical and it's fantastic and it's so helpful. So thank you all for making my life easier. And I can't wait for the rest of the audience to take advantage of it.
Thanks for having us on today. This was fun.
Yeah. Good. Well, Kate, you're invited back anytime. I don't know about the other guy, but
well, he's fading in the background anyway. So
I know, yeah, he's just melting in the background anyway.
What
I think it's
going on? It's because I was out of storage space on my machine, guys. You're bullying me. You knew this was happening.
Always good, you guys. Shameless plug. Last one. Register for APA training camp. Register for Imagine. We're gonna have a 1-2 punch. And it's going to be amazing.
And a fun little tidbit, there will be a discount code given to people who sign up for APA training camp so they can get to Imagine for less.
Oh, bam. There it is. All right, folks, as always, reach out to us on LinkedIn. Comment here. We're happy to help. Go to the Pathfinder community, interact with the MVPs and the hundreds of thousands of people there that can help you out. So we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks for joining. Oh, as I mentioned, this is a series. It's gonna our next episode's in a couple of weeks. We're gonna dive into banking and we're gonna get specific on a couple of use cases. In the comments, somebody had mentioned in financial services, the regulatory implications, and we've got a good episode coming up for that. So look forward to that. Look for the promo for the event registration to pop up soon. We'll talk to you. All right. Have a great weekend, everyone.